The board meeting will now come to order. Mercy. That works good. Okay. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you all please stand? Mr. Gibson, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there anyone on the call to the public? No, no call to the public. Okay, approval of the minutes. Has anybody read the minutes and like to make a motion that we approve them?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second.
All in favor of such motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. It's unanimous. The minutes are approved. I now turn the meeting over to Dr. Elliott.
Thank you. At this time, we will entertain nominations and election of officers for the Board of Governors.
I would like to make a nomination, if I may. I would like to nominate a whole slate for the officers. Rick Gibson for president, Dan Miller for vice president, and Deborah Banks for AADG representative. That is my motion. Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion?
Is everybody willing to accept?
Yes. Given the lack of discussion, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor of the slate presented?
Aye.
All in favor say aye. Sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Same sign. All right. Thank you. Motion passed.
Well, that was quick.
It was, wasn't it?
Well, we'll call this meeting to order. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the opportunity to serve this year as the leader of the board. I'd just like to make a public comment, and that is that over the last couple of years, my hearing has seemed to degrade just a little bit. So to my colleagues, if I look like I am not really tracking correctly, or if I miss a request from the members of the board, please feel free to nudge me and let me know. I assure you I'm not ignoring anyone on purpose.
I don't know how you could
I would not want this to go under the minutes, but my audiologist says, Gibson, you are handicapped, and I have not dealt very well with that. So here we go. We have completed our elections, so we're going to move forward with the next items. Next item is item 6, consideration of the consent agenda. All items with an asterisk are consent matters unless they are removed from the consent agenda at this time. Any items may be removed from the consent agenda by any governing board member upon motion duly made, seconded, and approved. Consent agenda items will be approved by one motion, and there will be no specific discussion of these items. Items removed from the consent agenda will be approved as a non-consent agenda item. What is the will of the board?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairperson. I'm so used to saying Madam Chair. I think you missed number 5.
Did I miss number 5? Election of officers. What?
I thought in number, talk about grain. Okay, no, I'm sorry, my
That's okay.
mistake.
That's all right. Keep an eye on me because I make mistakes on occasion. Absolutely. Looking for a motion or consideration of the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I would move that we accept the consent agenda as written.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. Those in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by saying nay? Motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. We will next move to item 7. That is consent agenda. We will move to item 10, which is second reading and adoption, policy, social media. Brandy Clark.
Good afternoon, Governing Board President Gibson, Governing Board members, President Elliott, Mary Lou, staff, students, and guests. This afternoon, I present to you the second reading of the new social media policy. The college currently does not have an existing policy that defines appropriate use of social media by CAC entities. The second reading is for the Governing Board's consideration for approval. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you. Questions for Brandy Clark? Would entertain a motion then to adopt the policy on social media.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the social media policy as presented. Discussion? Hearing none, let's proceed to vote. Those in favor of the motion to adopt, would you please signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed by saying nay? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Clark. Appreciate that. Next item is the AADGB representative report. Dan Miller.
Yes, Mr. Chair, nothing new to report.
Very good. Thank you. Report from Central Arizona College President, Dr. Elliott.
Thank you, Chair Gibson. Good afternoon, everyone, faculty, staff, guests, students, and friends of CAC. I have a couple of things to provide an update on. In particular, some legislative updates, some bills that we can be paying attention to, and then some district updates. The first bill is House Bill 2172 that has to do with any post-secondary public institution that receives state monies. We cannot prohibit possession of non-lethal weapons on campus as defined. House Bill 2055, it requires community college district governing boards to annually report specific information about dual enrollment to the Joint Legislative Budget Committee on December 1, which is a change from October 1st. That's not really something of incredible significance other than it allows us more time to gather the data that is necessary. The third bill is House Bill 2065, and it expands the open meeting definition to include one-way communication by one member of a public body that is sent to a quorum of members that proposes legal action and in exchange of electronic communications among a quorum that involves discussion, deliberation, or taking of legal action. This bill will authorize the Attorney General to commence a suit against the individual member who initiated the electronic communication in violation of open meeting law. And so, in particular, will allow the Attorney General to file a suit against any one individual member of a board entity like yourself who sends an email communication to a quorum of members that discusses or deliberates legal action. So, again, it's just a proposed bill, so we'll keep our eye on that one. Currently, I mean, our practices are that we don't discuss via email, so it becomes a moot point for us, but interesting nonetheless. And the last is House Bill 2028, and it allows for students involved in disciplinary proceedings of an alleged crime to be represented by an attorney and face his or her accuser. It also allows that if a student cannot afford an attorney, the college is required to appoint one for the student. So again, these are some bills that were introduced in the House, and we'll continue to watch those. A couple of district updates. We've just kind of started back to the spring semester, so there's not a whole lot going on, but I do want to report on a couple of things. In particular, in December, nearly 100 supervisors participated in training for the implementation of the Trust Edge, and the second training will happen on March 2nd. So this is a really big thing that's occurring district-wide for all of our supervisors. The accreditation team has been working diligently on writing the college's systems portfolio. It is due this June, so we're kind of about 4 months out, but this is a very important document for our continued accreditation and is taking a considerable amount of time and efforts on the part of numerous people. And then just recently, we received notification that the college and Sun Construction have been selected as semifinalists for the Association of General Contractors of America's Innovation Award. So we will know more about that as it comes along. And I do not believe there were any correspondences in your board book, but I'm happy to entertain any questions you may have about my report.
Questions for Dr. Elliott?
On the innovations nomination, do you know how many are in that group? How many have been nominated?
I think it was 4 or five finalists. We're one of 5, and as a semifinalist, we have to go and then be interviewed and to be selected. But it's a pretty nice honor to be recognized nationally as one of the top 5 innovation awards.
I'd say so.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Elliott. Appreciate your update. Next item is number 13, Business Affairs Report. Chris Vodka.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure I like the new numbering, lucky number 13 for finances. But good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Congratulations on your new assignment. Governing board members, Madam President, Madam Secretary, and all guests and colleagues that are here this afternoon. I have 4 reports this afternoon. The first one is the monthly budget report. And what you will find attached in your packets is the final numbers now for June 30th of 2017. For the year, we were expended at 84.53%, which is very similar to a year ago at the end of June of 16, where we were at 84.8%. And I believe you have heard me say, though, due to the expenditure limitations and budget constraints moving forward, the current year that we are in, and actually future years, we are going to be closer to the expense closer to the 100% of what we budget versus being in the mid-80s as we have been the last couple of years. One other note is the audit was completed for June. I believe you did receive copies, and we will be presenting that officially at next month's meeting. And this is all that we have for the budget reports. Since we started the campus Nexus student system the first week in November, we are having some minor issues with the payments in terms of PayPal and posting to the accounts. So I do not want to present the November and December reports until I know they're 100% accurate. So we will reflect those at the February board meeting. But any questions on the June reports?
Please.
So we won't see it until February, but you have visibility to the accounts, just not in a position you're comfortable with presenting.
Correct. I'd rather show you 100% results than say 99.9% correct. I'd rather be
But
total.
nothing alarming that we need
No,
to
sir.
consider. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Other questions relative to the financial report before he proceeds forward to the next item?
Okay, the second item is the awarded purchases over $20,000. We have a handful of them for this month. The first one is the batting cages and audio setup. Madness Productions of Arizona, LLC, from Phoenix, Arizona, in the amount of $42,800, and that was to replace the batting cages and also audio for the batting cages here at the baseball field at Signal Peak campus. Next item, Dell Computers, CCB Technology Incorporated, Racine, Wisconsin, $85,937.50. That is an ongoing replacement of computers, of Dell computers for our district. Next one, security personnel for the Maricopa, Santan, and Superstition Mountain campus. This is for the G4S Secure Solutions Incorporated, headquartered in Juniper, Florida. $250,028, and that is to contract for our security services for SMC, Santan, and Maricopa for fiscal year 18. Next one is equipment and cabling for the new student union, San Carlos Irrigation Project out of Coolidge, Arizona, $38,869.34, and that is to purchase from San Carlos new equipment that will be going into the construction that we have ongoing at the Student Union building. Next one is the Education Advisory Board membership, EAB, Charlotte, North Carolina, $23,328. That is to renew our annual membership for the Education Advisory Board. The next one is Fire Service Renewal. That is with our Regional Fire Rescue here in Casa Grande, Arizona, $41,508. And that is to renew our annual renewal that we have for the fire services here for Signal Peak campus. Kubota tractor and loader attachment, Bingham equipment at Casa Grande, Arizona, $20,848.34. That is to purchase a new tractor and the attachment for the facilities department for use at the Santan campus. Consultant fees for information technology, Avid Consulting LLC out of Tucson, Arizona for $40,000. That is to contract for network and system consulting services for the district, and that is part of our new construction projects. Gas pipe construction for new SPC buildings, Arid Land Gas Specialist, Phoenix, Arizona, $45,629. That is to have some additional gas work completed at the Signal Peak campus, and it also is related to the new construction. And the last one is a dual enrollment with CAVIT out of Coolidge, Arizona, $33,368, and that is the intergovernmental agreement with CAVIT. Be happy to answer any questions on these awarded purchases.
Appears to be no questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. The third item is an ERP update. In your packet, you have a number of points that we have listed. I think the main ones I'll just briefly highlight on. Since we went live the first week in November, we have had about 50 issues that we have encountered. Some of them we've classified more as priority issue, priority 1s or 2s versus something lower priority. But at this point, we have resolved the majority of them. I believe we have like 12 that are currently open, but we'll get a better report on that tomorrow. And since the last report, we have installed the CRM module, and that allows for the bulk messaging, the tracking, and the communication to students, staff, and faculty. And this month in January and February, we're hot and heavy into the finance and payroll and HR module configurations, and a bunch of meetings that are ongoing for the next couple of weeks as we gear towards the go live date for the rest of the system starting July 1st. So that is my update for the ERP. Would there be any questions on that? Okay, and then the last item I have is a listing of the intergovernmental agreements. I present this on a semi-yearly basis, so this is for July 1st through December 31st of 2017. You'll see a number of them, IGA agreements, MOUs, and other types of agreements listed. There's a couple of pages of them. Be happy to answer any questions you may have on any of those agreements. They're pretty standard and pretty reoccurring. If not, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Looking at the number of intergovernmental agreements indicates that we do have significant partnerships around the county. Looks good. Thank you. Next item is monitoring reports. Letter A ends for ensure Pinal County residents have access to lifelong learning and cultural environment. Jenny Cardenas and Dr. Mary Kay Gilliland, please, and thank you.
So good afternoon, Board President Gibson, members of the board, President Elliott, colleagues, students, and guests. Thank you. We are very happy to be presenting the first of a series of monitoring reports about the college's performance and some goals that we have on a variety of things. So this first one is about our access to lifelong learning and cultural environment in the community. There are going to be a series of charts, and I'm going to just speak about the first two. Two of the first goals along these lines have to do with providing access to lifelong learning and particularly our community education programming. The board has set a goal for the enrollment in our community ed classes at 1,400, which is a little bit above but fairly consistent with where we were in 2014-15 and 2015-16. You'll notice there's a dip in the most recent round of reporting that's quite significant. And this can be completely explained because we have significantly changed the way we are offering community education. So I'll speak to that in just a moment. If we can look at the second chart, we'll see the same pattern. Can you move that for us? Or do I have a, oh, there we go. Okay, thanks. So the second measure is of the number of classes available in community education. And in this regard, the board has actually set a goal that's just a little bit below where we had been in the two prior years, with the goal in mind of providing excellent quality and not focusing so much on quantity. But again, we have a dip in the most recent round. So in brief, we have lower numbers of courses and lower enrollments reported for the most recent year, which we fully expect to change in the year ahead because we have changed the way that we are offering community education. In the past, we paid all of our instructors at the adjunct rate, the credit adjunct rate, and we have shifted that model to be more in keeping with the norms across the nation, truly, in community colleges, where the salaries for providing community education, which does not require a master's degree, are on a different scale. And because we were making a major shift in the way we were thinking about our programming, we actually didn't offer courses over the summer, this past summer, with the goal in mind of closing down the previous program and then reopening with a new model. So we reopened that new model this fall. The other thing that has changed for us in the way we're thinking about community education is, well, actually twofold. One is that we have a number of credit courses that are actually moving into the community education area. Those courses which do not serve degrees and certificates, many of them are now moving into a community education model, like theater and dance and yoga and some other programming. And we are looking to target the communities that we serve a little bit better so that we are providing programming more in keeping with the particular communities around Pinal County. So we believe that those two things are going to be improvements in the way we offer community ed. Okay, so I'm going to pass this on now to VP Cardenas for the next two slides.
Good afternoon, everyone. So the next two slides, this first is actually connected to the numbers of performances and cultural events that are housed on each of our campuses. I've kind of looked at this and separated out into two different ways. You'll see that we have had a slight increase from 2016 to 2017, and we are looking at community events, both in our Pent Center here and large-scale events, but also the events that we have on each of the campuses for students and community members to participate in. The four different things that we're doing to reach the goals that the board has set of having 100 performances throughout the district. First would be in staffing when it comes to filling vacant positions that we've had both in the Pent Center but also with our student engagement area throughout the district. The second is increasing and really putting a focus in our PR and marketing department, as well as through our campus directors, in offering multiple cultural events and opportunities on each of our campuses. So we have in the past had a focus of many of our events being on the Signal Peak campus, our larger scale events. So there is much more of a focus on having those large scale events on multiple campuses, such as this past fall, the Santan Festival that was held, which was a community event as well. The next is in really developing community partnerships. I was on the same slide, sorry. I said the next, but I meant was on community partnerships that we're developing, such as the partnership that was developed this year between the college and the Black Box Foundation to be able to offer additional events and performances and things for our community. And the final in this area is really the way that we're tracking. So ensuring that we do have a much more robust way of collecting the information, both from each of the or from all of the campuses, but as well as from our marketing and PR. So ensuring that we're capturing all of the wonderful events that we have. This number, although it did increase, I fear that in looking at the number, there may be things that we missed that were smaller events on campuses that we can certainly capture for next year. The next slide is looking kind of from a different perspective at community perceptions and satisfaction with our partnerships that we have with different members from throughout the community. So the focus in this area is really looking at certainly wanting to reach the 90% satisfaction rate that was set as our target, but really looking number one at who are the partners that have been identified as we're looking at this target, and really ensuring that we're considering all of the different IGAs that we have with people throughout the county, or throughout the state as well, and different partnerships that we have, and ensuring that we're really talking to them about providing feedback and gathering additional feedback as to how we can better serve them and our community with these partnerships. So the two areas there are increasing the amount of feedback that we're getting and really taking a good look at the partners that we're focusing on and receiving impact or feedback from. So those are the 4 ends that are related to the community and ensuring that our residents have access to lifelong learning and cultural enrichment, and we look forward to reaching those goals and for next year. Are there any questions for either of us?
Thank you very much for your report. Mr. Miller, please.
Okay. And there actually is a final slide. Dr. Gilliland and I had agreed to kind of talk about them with the other slides, so we've addressed all of the recent and planned improvements that were listed here, so you don't think I skipped this one.
You might have addressed it, but were there any in the community who were impacted getting a certificate by changing the way we look at the curriculum?
For the community ed?
Right, community.
Yes. No, there was no impact to any existing certificates or degrees.
Okay. And then a question about the performances, Madam President. Is it difficult to separate that by campus? How many presentations?
The tracking of the
Right.
different events.
Right.
No, it's not difficult. The structure that we have with our campus directors now will definitely allow us to have one point on each campus where we can gather that information, as well as work with marketing and PR to gather the information.
Okay, and traditionally, I think we cover like performances, concerts, plays, that sort of thing. Will this also include like the fair that
Yes.
was held?
Yeah,
As well as any
include that.
science and technology, field trips and things?
Yeah, we can do that. We can segment it maybe in future reports and look at it that way. Again, we probably hadn't been tracking very well in the past until the board set this as an ends and set a target. So I think there's great opportunity for improvement in how we look at the data, and we can segment it into those different categories and by campus moving forward. It might be difficult to go back and comb back through data, but I think we could do that going forward.
Okay.
And an additional component that I hadn't added is each campus also has their campus activities board. So the student boards that have been charged with also providing cultural events on the campuses. So that's an additional way of being able to gather, but also provide those opportunities for community members and
All right.
students.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Other questions? So, Ms. Cardenas, Dr. Gilliland, as we look at this ends for the community, that Pinal County residents will have access to lifelong learning and cultural enrichment. Can you give us just maybe a 1 or 2 sentence summary from your perspective as to how well we are meeting the ends that have been set? oftentimes talk in the community about the importance of lifelong learning. And I think that's a major function for a community college. How are we doing?
So we're going to have two opinions here. I have a feeling they're going to be fairly similar, though. I would say, especially looking at the first two graphs and the dip in both the enrollments and the number of courses in the community education is a little bit misleading right now. That dip is actually due to our efforts at improvement. So I think taking out that little piece of it, we've probably been fairly consistently hitting maybe a 75% mark based on what the goal of the board is for our performance in terms of providing lifelong learning. I think there's room for improvement for us, but I think overall my estimation is that CAC has been doing actually quite a good job in the past. I think our goal is to take that to an even higher level and to continue to find better ways to deliver really appropriate targeted education to the communities, and just to continue to improve, to always reach for a higher mark. So I think that we will be able to reach the board's goal with that added effort.
And I think from the perspective related to the community events and the cultural events that we've had throughout the district, one of the main components that I think has helped is really being more visible in the community. And we've had the focus from our president and from our college as a whole at really developing additional partnerships with the community. So I think we're poised in a way to be able to not only have stronger relationships and partnerships with our community members, but with the development of a student, campus advisory boards, so students have a specific focus and target. We have our student services and campus directors and academic deans who are focused on providing these same types of opportunities throughout the district. I think this past year, as Dr. Gilliland indicated, has really been a year of developing the structure so that over this next year and in the future we can continue to grow in these areas. So I do agree that we've done a very good job of providing these opportunities, but we'll just see expanded opportunities. And with the last slide that really showed, or the last of the four graphs that really showed the satisfaction with our community partners, I'm really curious to see how this increases as our partnerships have continued to grow and we've continued to hear more from our community partners and from our students about what they're looking for and how we can better serve them. So I think this is a great year to have a baseline because based on the foundation that's been created, it should only increase from here.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments from the board? Appreciate your report.
Thank you.
Certainly these ends reports are extremely interesting and very valuable to us, and we look forward to hearing more about our progress in the future. Looking at my agenda, I see we are at item number 15, which is the next board meeting, February 27th at the Santan campus. We look forward to that meeting. And with the conclusion of our agenda, I declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for your attendance today.